Warning. This episode of the Karma Files, Paranormal and Unexplained may not be suitable for young ears. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to the Karma Files, true stories of the paranormal and unexplained. Let me introduce myself. I'm Melissa. I'm an adoptee who grew up seeing, hearing, and feeling spirits. I thought I was the only one, and I was terrified. When I grew older, I discovered that my biological relatives were sensitive to spirits as well. Have you ever had the feeling you're being watched? Heard voices or been touched when no one is there? Have you ever seen objects move on their own accord? Have you had loved ones that have passed try to contact you to give messages to their loved ones from the other side? No? I have. This is Jen's nightmare. Location: Modesto, California. Time period: the 1980s. This event occurred sometime in the first 2 years of high school. Ever since Jen was in 4th grade, she had a bedroom on the first floor of her family's home, while everyone else slept upstairs. It felt spooky, and she felt alone and set apart from everyone. She eventually got used to it, but that undercurrent of being alone where nobody could hear her down the hall remained. Jen's room was at the end of a small hallway, and she had recently started cracking the door about 8 inches at bedtime. To let the light in from the hallway, to feel safer. The night started like any other night, and Jen drifted off to sleep. It was common for her to have vivid dreams, and this one was no exception. This time, the scene was a bargain shopping outlet, and Jen was standing at a giant bin of discount shoes, standing in the center of the wide main aisle. All of a sudden, in the dream, the bin began to shake. She remembers observing this in the dream and wondering what was going on, because that just wasn't normal. The shaking went on in the dream until she woke up. It was the middle of the night, and the dream of shaking had woken her up. But it wasn't just a dream. Jen became aware that her 4-poster bed was repeatedly being slammed into the wall behind the headboard. It was as though someone were standing at the foot of her bed, holding on to the 2 bedposts and pulling and pushing to shake the bed with her in it. It was as though she was frozen and couldn't look at the end of her bed, although she really didn't want to find out what was there. But this is not the end of the story. She just happened to be laying on her side, facing the cracked open door, and as she stared at the light peeking through the crack, paralyzed with confusion and fear, she heard a voice. "Just don't be afraid." And at the time, Jen took it as comfort that if she only weren't afraid, everything would be all right. And so she stayed as calm as she could. She stared at the light coming from the hallway as the bed continued to bang against the wall. Her next recollection was of waking up the next morning with no memory of the bed stopping its shaking or being able to settle back down to sleep. When she went out into the house, as it was a school day and it was time to get ready for school, she said to her mother, "There was an earthquake last night," in her mind's attempt to make the experience into something less terrifying. But her mother said, "No, there wasn't. It would have been in the newspaper." And so, Jen had to find another way to explain it. And she couldn't. It became a repressed memory that laid low for another 5 years. Jen still doesn't know what happened that night. Was there a spirit shaking her bed? Who told her to simply not be afraid? Or was this an alien abduction encounter gone wrong, with telepathic communication to stay calm? Was the dream a purposeful, projected veil draped over what was really happening? Jen will never know. Or will she? Perhaps there is another repressed memory that can be uncovered to solve this mystery. And sometimes you don't wake up from a nightmare. Your nightmares are what happen when you wake up from your dream. As always, take what you need for your daydreams and leave what you don't for your nightmares. Sweet dreams. At times, my life can seem like the scariest of nightmares. Believer or skeptic, I know the veil is thin between us and those on the other side. Do you experience the paranormal? If you don't, maybe you're the ghost. This was a full moon bonus episode of the Mind Your Own Karma podcast called The Karma Files. If you enjoyed being terrified by my story, please haunt my DMs on Instagram or Facebook to let me know that you're dying for more. Do you have a ghost story to tell? You can send me your short story at mindyourownkarma@gmail.com. And if it gives me the chills, it may be featured on a future full moon episode. I'd like to personally welcome you to my nightmares. I think you're going to like it here.